Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jay Beadnell. I'm a senior systems analyst with Wolpert. I've been coming to this conference for 25 years now, something like that. I was formerly with the city of Raleigh for 30 years, 20 of those doing GIS. So it's good to be back. Today we're going to talk about optimizing our GIS data with related data, right? And doing so for asset management and material management, and how those two fit together. Effective asset and material management is critical for successful operations across multiple disciplines and organizations. This presentation kind of goes across on the strategies and technologies that help enhance and maintain efficiency and sustainability and the profitability for those assets and that material management. Both of those topics, asset management and material management, are pretty complex and will require more time than we've got to go into in depth today. So we're just going to talk about the areas where they intersect, right? The goals of doing or optimizing our material and asset management are to get an ROI on our assets, right? We want our assets to last as long as possible with a well-maintained, a well-planned maintenance program, and also incorporate a well-planned maintenance material strategy that minimizes order cost and provides inventory control to prevent overstocking and understocking, right? We want to minimize risk, so we want to prevent asset failure, especially on our critical assets. And we also want to optimize our performance. That's one of the key goals. Our assets last longer when we maintain them, right? And we can maintain them longer if we have the materials we need to maintain those assets, right? This also, this well-strategized maintenance plan will help us prevent reactive work and make it more of a scheduled work. So our employees have a more optimized and a more efficient workflow. An effective asset management policy will articulate our organization's commitments and expectations for the decisions, activities, and behaviors related to their asset management plan, right? We have to have a policy that dictates that. And that policy should be aligned with the city or the departments of the organization's organizational objectives, right? We don't want our policy to go outside of our objectives. That policy is a guiding document, basically. We write our policy. It's a document that defines what our principles and mandated requirements for our asset management strategy, right? And how we are going to deliver on our asset management plans that we get into. And the second one of our strategies in planning for our asset management plan is demand analysis. This is to ensure that we're going to have the assets needed to meet demand and future demand, right? Our demand can change, right, for our assets. Part of this presentation revolves around metering, right? So those demands change based on multiple factors. And some of those factors can be economic growth. As a city grows or our organization grows, we're going to need more assets or more materials to maintain that. economic growth, technology can change our demand, which is kind of where this presentation is revolving around, is the change out of meters. So as we get new meters, new technology, that increases our demand, right? We're going to have to adjust our demand, or meet our demand for this new technology. Policy, environmental, and consumer behavior can also impact demand on our management for our assets and our materials. So we use strategic planning to figure all this stuff out. We take that demand analysis and our policy, and we do some strategic planning, and we determine how we're going to meet our asset management objectives and develop that asset management strategy. It includes how the organization is going to address the outputs from the demand analysis. If we've got new demand, how are we going to meet that demand, right? Are we going to phase the project? Is it going to be subsidized by industry within the community? You know, we have to do some analysis on how we're going to meet that, right? Long-term renewal and maintenance work volumes are also considered in our strategy, right? How we're going to maintain all of these assets. And once we've done all that, we come up with our asset management plan, right? We have a plan that we administer through our policy, right? An asset management document operationalized the asset life cycle, the operations, maintenance, and capital renewal activities, and delivered and it helps us to deliver the value expected on those assets, right? A well-defined asset management plan will include some of these characteristics, right? We're going to have our portfolio, the life cycle cost, our life cycle management plan, the levels of service that we agreed upon for maintaining these assets, how long do we have to deliver a repair, these types of strategies. Our maintenance strategies, continual improvement plan, our costing methodology, right? First in, first out, last in, first out, weighted average, actual cost, right? Our data migration management, how do we maintain this data, right? What database, where, who maintains that, who's responsible? All of that information is in our asset management plan. And our staffing and training plan, overlooked almost all the time. We got a plan, we're going to implement, we put it into place, we have people expected to perform. What happens when that person leaves? How does that new person get trained? How do we maintain that going forward, right? Asset lifecycle management. Most of you in here doing GIS-related assets, you understand the asset lifecycle plan, or asset lifecycle. So these assets can be obtained, right, for acquiring through CIP projects or through our MRO, our maintenance, repair, and operations processes. This is how we determine we need to acquire an asset, right? The operating phase is the life of the asset from acquiring until we dispose of it, right? And maintenance is the predictive, preventive, corrective, and reactive work activities that occur on that asset while it's in the operating phase, right? And then the last phase of or life cycle of an asset is the disposal phase. Depending on the asset type, it can be discarded when it goes out of use, or it can be refurbished and put back into place, right? A lot of vertical assets, pumps, and motors for treatment facilities, they will pull them offline, refurbish them, put them back in place because of the cost, right? Now we're going to go into the material inventory control, right? So implementing that material management is just as important as the asset management, right? So two of the things we want to do with two of the processes that we use for material management is planning and forecasting. We want to establish minimum quantity and reorder point values on our materials, right? Plan orders cost less than emergency orders. If we give the vendor time to deliver, it's not an emergency order, we can get it cheaper. Procurement of our assets, developing multiple vendor relationships for each asset type instills that we can maintain necessary material at a lower cost point and avoid supply chain issues, right? If I can get it from more than one supplier, I don't have to worry about being out of stock to somebody else. And then I can also negotiate prices. Receiving is a critical part in this optimization and material management and asset management. So in the receiving process, when I've received material into the system, I can take a serialized material. I can get a pallet full of meters. They all have a serial number. When I receive that into my material management, I can use an automated process to automatically insert that to a GIS table. And if you're not using a GIS-centric asset management plan, you can put it into your asset registry, whether it's GIS or not. I'm familiar with using a process that automatically takes that serialized meter, puts it into inventory, and also puts those serial numbers as an object in an object table. And it's ready for me to use in the work, right? Inventory control. Best process for inventory control is a well-developed audit plan. I want to know how often I'm going to do the audit and on each asset type. And those can change based on ABC analysis. And the ABC analysis determines a category for a material. A, very tight control with accurate records. B, less tightly controlled, and moderate records. And C, we really don't, it's not a high cost, high critical data, right? And then distribution, we want to distribute our materials for access for work across our organization, so we have multiple places to access that material. I don't want a crew from the north side of town to have to go to the south side of town to get that material, right? That prevents cost and provides material flow easier for people to access, right? And behind all this, we're going to use some technology solutions, right? IoT and data analytics are feeding into this on both sides of the fence, on material management or asset management, right? And then we're going to use some integrations between these two systems to provide insights into where those materials were used. So some of the technology solutions inside the storeroom is we use RFID and barcode scanners. So we've got a barcode scanner, and when something comes in, I can scan it, it automatically puts it into my material list, right, in my inventory. And you can use RFID codes for the same process, right? Smart shelving. Some of these storeroom solutions have smart shelving. They know how much something weighs. When you put 5 of them on the shelf, it knows you've got 5 on the shelf, and it automatically updates your inventory, right? And it helps you provide real-time data analysis on your inventory. Technology solutions outside of the storeroom. Demand forecasting, we use analytics on historical data. We have SCADA on some of our pumps and motors. What's the runtime, temperature, vibration? We have SCADA on the stuff to provide us with information so we know when these assets are going to need to be replaced. And it allows us to have those assets in material management for those maintenance, repair, and operations work orders. And predictive maintenance. We use IoT to drive our predictive maintenance. So if we've got something that's flagged, we know that we have to go in and work on it. So how do we use this to optimize, right? So we integrating our EAP with our ERP system with our material management allows us to automate our orders, right? If we have material that's below minimum, we can automate that requisition to our ERP system to order our material. Integration between your ERP management system and your GIS data or your asset registry, as I spoke to earlier, we're going to bring that material, put it in our GIS. As soon as it's in the GIS, we can go out and use that in the workforce to either replace materials, replace assets, or install new assets. And integration between that material management and your billing solution will also allow them to take that new meter that you received in, hook it into the billing system, so whenever I put that meter into use, I can assign it to an account and start billing it. So, real world example, our client used all of this optimization to get their meters, they bring it into their storeroom, it went into a GIS table, and allowed them to go out and replace their manual read water meters with AMI meters. So I've got the meter, I can go out and replace the old one. It allows me to track that cost on that workflow, and I automatically know where that meter was installed. So I've got a where and how, and then it also allows me to match that meter with my billing system. So as soon as I install it, billing can assign it to account and start charging those people. Any questions? We're not. Drinking for a fire hose. Yes.
And then when they go to install a meter, walk us through that process of how the right meter gets associated with the right point in GIS.
So the way this system worked for this client is when they receive the meters into the main warehouse, it serializes that inventory. So when I transfer it from the main warehouse to a mobile warehouse, which is the truck, I have to pick the serial number when I issue it to that truck. So I know exactly what serial numbers are on the truck as well. So when they go out and pick that meter and put it on the work order, it asks which meter I'm putting on that work order and knows the exact serial number that gets applied to that work order. So that serial number is in the warehouse, it's on the truck. I put it on the work order, it's no longer on the truck, it's on the work order. And that's as an asset, but as when it comes to costing on the work order, I also have that meter in my material that I can put on the work order so I get the cost. So I'm moving that as an asset, but I'm also keeping track of the material cost on that work order, so I know how much I spent performing that work.
So if we can continue with this analogy, this scenario, how do you have already barcoded the meter, and that meter and that barcode is associated with that customer. What happens when that meter gets pulled because it's out of service or it breaks, and it goes to the meter shop. The meter shop does what they do, they correct it, and then now we have that meter goes to a different customer
Very good question. That is handled with the life cycle status, and we're out of time. Huh? Repeat the question. The question was, how do we keep track of meters once they've been taken out of service, right? And it's been barcoded associated with an account, then they have to change that meter, and it goes back to the shop. How do we facilitate that? And that is handled through life cycle status on that asset. So when I bring that asset into the storeroom as material and it gets put into the GIS table, it's put in with the status of new or purchased. When I put it into the field and put it on into use, it gets a life cycle status of in use. So when I say that meter starts leaking or the radio's not performing and I have to pull it out, that life cycle status on that meter goes into either retired or not in use, and then the new meter that gets replaced with it gets put into in use. So you use the life cycle status on these assets to control that flow.
Is that automated? Is that automated, or who changes that?
That would be done in the automated process in the work order. So if you do a replace work order, that old asset gets a life cycle status change.
So in that same scenario, do you have a meter's box as an asset and a meter as a separate asset?
The question is, do you have two assets, a meter box and a meter? And the answer is yes, because the meter box is the point on the map, and the meter is a related table. So I can go select that box, show me all the related assets, and then I get that related meter, and I change out that related meter. The meter box stays there. There's no change to that status, but I do change out the meter that's associated with that location.
Box is associated with the customer, and that's how you do the transaction.
Yep. And that can handle multiple meter types. You can have a meter box with a residential meter and a irrigation meter, right? So the process works. It doesn't care.
Is the degradation index also tracked? If so, how is that located?
I'm sorry, can you?
Degradation index tracked? Is the degradation index also tracked with the asset management data? So like the 1 to 5 ranking determining quality of the asset, and so is that updated?
So, like the conditions on the meter, it can be, right? That's not part of this process. The system that I'm most familiar with is CityWorks, right? So you can do condition assessment on those assets and put what condition that meter's in, right? Any other questions? So I've been speaking to this as from a CityWorks perspective, which is a GIS-centric work order management system. So it helps to facilitate these workflows that I've been describing. You do not have to have a GIS-centric or CityWorks to perform all of this stuff. All of that migration from the material to the asset registry can be done with database triggers and stored procedures, right? The process is the same. CityWorks does it for you automatically, though, right? Well, thanks everybody for coming. Not a really good turnout. I was a little freaked out, but I think it went well, and good questions.